but can very much talk with them and say, hey, you should probably leave. Like, I'm going to kill you if you don't
That's
go.
that's
Like,
the
very
spooky
calmly.
temple voice to use too. Hey, you should
Right.
probably leave.
Right.
Welcome to Monsters and Multiclass, your Dungeons & Dragons fix. I'm Ellie.
I'm Jared Bornicle.
And I'm Wimelda.
And on this episode, we are taking a look at the Eidolons and their companion stat block sacred statues. So we'll get to that, what that means in a minute here. Not much introduction for these guys. Yeah, Jared, just take it away. You can talk about it.
Yeah, these are protectors of sites. Usually for holy sites, gods often rely on. Man, you said it perfectly the first time. Eidolons, there we go. Eidolons to just protect, safeguard sacred areas. They're forged from the souls of those with unwavering devotion. So this could be like a reward for a cleric. Hooray, you did it. You were my champion for all of these years, and now you get to guard this area for the rest of your life.
Eternity. This is afterlife.
Yeah, you're right. Sorry.
When they die, this is the reward for eternity. Gets acted in service to this god, which sounds like torture to me, but it's framed as like this really positive thing for these people. So I guess like great for them.
Yeah, it's kind of like the equivalent of an old man who gets to yell at children to get off of his lawn for eternity, but like that's his comfort place. Like nothing gives him more joy than telling kids to F off. So they generally will I don't know, I guess be wandering around the temples, but when somebody steps foot into a warded location, the Eidolon plunges into a statue specifically prepared to house its soul, which is the sacred statue. It then animates this effigy and uses the statue to drive out the intruders.
Yeah, in terms of the Eidolon within 5th edition, there's not really much anything at all about how these things look. There's no art with them. There's sacred statue art. So I just kind of imagine they're just sort of like formless spirits. They're kind of like a mist that just sort of like moves through the sacred site.
That's about what I got to. I mean, it says they're ghostly spirits bound to safeguard a sacred place. So, I don't think you have to get too creative to think of what they look like. Ghostly spirits. Ooh. If you want to flavor it, depending on the god's location that they are guarding, you can have a ghostly spirit that resembles their emblem or something like that. So you just have like a ghostly hammer for a forge god, whatever makes sense.
Yeah, you did dig up previous edition art of them, and they are absolutely terrifying. Though these might be the sacred statues.
I think so. Yeah, to me those look like statues still.
Yeah,
that. They're cool. They definitely are. They look a little bit cooler than the sacred statues. The sacred statue, I don't know what it is about it, but the art just seems so goofy to me.
It looks like a throwback. Like the AD&D or like one of the really, really early edition player handbooks has one of those on it.
You're totally right.
And I think that's why. And it's like, I think connected to like Tomb of Horrors, like the demon hole thing. And no, that's another one. I don't know how it's connected, but it just kind of gives like that like old, really old cheesy fantasy art vibe to it. And I imagine it's purposely a throwback to that.
The Maw of Annihilation.
The Maw of Annihilation.
For Tomb of Horrors?
Yeah.
That thing was
awesome. Yeah. We just called it the demon hole when we played that.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about the book that it's actually on. But yes, Tomb of Annihilation looks to be like it has this sort of I don't know. I haven't found the book exactly, but either way, I know exactly the cover you're talking about.
It's the first edition handbook.
Is it the first edition handbook?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I looked at second and third. I didn't think it was that far back.
And I think that's supposed to be like Moloch or something, which they mentioned in the like brief flavor text.
Okay.
Who's that?
It's definitely first edition. Yeah.
No, I don't remember.
Okay. If you know who it is, if you know any history around the art of this statue, please let us know in the comments. We apologize. We are not
Lorists?
Forgotten Realms lore archivists or anything. But the creature itself, the Eidolon, In terms of stat block, we do have something kind of interesting here. This is a challenge rating 12, the Eidolon, and it has an AC of 9 and an HP of 63, and does an average damage per round of literally 0. So unless it is in the sacred statue, this thing is not intimidating as much as it is maybe hard to pin down. It has a lot of resistances, immunities, and whatnot, but you
Yeah.
know, it's not putting up a fight once you break the statue.
Yeah, I think the challenge rating is assuming it's in the statue
I am
because the
positive it
sacred
is.
statue doesn't have a challenge rating,
Yes.
which is weird, even though it is a dedicated stat block.
Well, it doesn't have a challenge rating because technically it's just a statue.
I
Yeah.
guess, yeah. I mean, it's like its mech suit. The mech suit doesn't have a challenge rating unless it has a pilot, but this thing doesn't work unless it has a pilot. So I don't know. Either way, let's go through the stat block. So we'll just talk about the Eidolon first and then go into the sacred statue. It mentioned the AC and HP already, but we also have a fly speed of 40 feet, as well as it has hover, has strength of 7, dex of 8, con of 9, intelligence of 14, wisdom of 19, and charisma of 16. That high wisdom does make me think that this really would be like a gift to a cleric, and you can almost start coming up with lore for what the Eidolon was in a previous life. I don't know if that would have relevance in your game, but I guess you could make it have relevance.
Yeah. I mean, it could
For-
talk, so.
Right. And I wonder if it knows anything from its past life.
And it knows the languages anew in life, so I'm going to go with yes.
Okay. All right. See, we've got some lore brewing.
There we go.
In world lore. Again, not Forgotten Realms lore. I don't know it. Stop asking me questions about it. Saving throws, got wisdom +8 and skills perception +8. Then we have resistances, like I mentioned a bunch here, resistant to acid, fire, lightning, thunder, bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing from non-magical attacks. Damage immunities to cold, necrotic, and poison. Condition immunities of charmed, exhaustion, frightened, grappled, paralyzed, petrified, poisoned, proned, and restrained. Lots. Yeah.
Yes.
But I mean, it's a ghost. So
yeah.
have you ever tried poisoning a ghost? Doesn't work. I'm almost surprised with it being a ghost. No, never mind. This makes sense. I was going to say vulnerability to radiant damage, but they're like a god's ghost, so that would be a little silly, wouldn't it? For senses, we've got dark vision out to 60 feet, passive perception of 18, and then the languages it knew in life, as mentioned. For passives, it has incorporeal movement. Nothing too wild there. It's able to move through objects as if they were difficult terrain. If it ends its turn there, it takes 1d10 force damage, unless it's in the sacred statue. Then it has its sacred animation, which recharges on a 5 or 6. When the Eidolon moves into a space occupied by a sacred statue, the Eidolon can disappear, causing the statue to become a creature under the Eidolon's control. The Eidolon uses the sacred statue's stat block in place of its own. And it's interesting that that's a recharge of 5 or 6.
Yeah, I had that same thought too. Because it sounds like there's probably like one of these sacred statues.
But there doesn't have to be.
No.
Yeah, my impression is there would be one Eidolon for sure, and then maybe multiple sacred statues as you see fit.
Right. But each round, then, while it's fighting in the sacred statue, you would be re-rolling the d6 to try and recharge it anyways. So it kind of seems like it should just be something it does.
That's fair. I mean, I guess the idea is that if you were a DM trying to cheese this fight, I don't know why you would, but it happens, then if you need it to have the sacred animation recharged, if your party destroyed the sacred statue or found a way to drive it out, then it wouldn't be able to go into another sacred statue until it recharged. So it'd almost be like it's out in the open. It could be attacked, the actual, core of it. And in that time, you need to kill it before it gets sacred animation back, takes over another sacred statue, and the fight continues.
Makes it a little more interesting, I guess. But I don't know. I think most of the time it would just be up.
The sacred animation?
Yeah.
Sure. Again, it just depends on how you want to run the fight. If you're like having level 20s fight this thing, then they are going to just burn through the sacred statues most likely in, a turn or two, and that could be an interesting way to go about it. But otherwise, if you did just want to have them like kind of a set amount of there's 2 sacred statues, I want them to have to fight 2 of the sacred statues, then yeah, you could just throw the recharge out and it wouldn't matter.
Sure. I like the wording is interesting. The Eidolon can disappear, causing the statue to become a creature under the Eidolon's control, even though the flavor is clearly the Eidolon goes into the statue and possesses it. But I understand why that's kind of messy wording, and it's much easier to just word it as they did instead of having to put in 3 paragraphs of possession rules like how ghosts and stuff have it.
Sure.
But it was just, to me, really reminiscent, like if you able to peer behind the scenes in like a video game or something to see the kind of like Band-Aid spaghetti string coding of how things actually work. Like if you're like in a vehicle, it's like in a first person game, it's the character model with their head is replaced with the vehicle running around the map with increased speed, crap like that.
That's the classic.
This just kind of gave me that vibe.
Yeah, there's a video on Resident Evil 2, like when you hack the camera, you can find a room where all the characters who are about to be in a scene are just like hanging out. Just, you can't get into the room. They're just like sitting there T-posing.
Yeah, so this just felt like a little like peeling back the mechanics of D&D. I don't know, just kind of struck me.
Yeah, and so you're saying the other part here is that if they didn't have it disappear, then they'd need to have odd possession rules and everything. Right. I do still wonder if you're able to try and turn undead against the creature once it's in the sacred statue.
I'm thinking no.
Oh, actually, I think we might have an answer in the sacred statue, so I will hold that discussion for later.
Does it? Yeah, okay.
It has something around it. I don't know if it specifically calls turning, but we do have turn resistance, where the Eidolon has advantage on saving throws against any effect that turns undead. And then unusual nature, so it doesn't require air, food, drink, or sleep. That would be odd if it did require it.
The undead possessing fog, yeah.
Yeah.
Catch it in the middle of a meal.
And then in terms of actions, it only has a single one. And that is Divine Dread. Each creature within 60 feet of the Eidolon that can see it must succeed on a DC 15 wisdom saving throw or be frightened of it for 1 minute. While frightened in this way, the creature must take the dash action and move away from the Eidolon by the safest available route at the start of each of its turns, unless there is nowhere for it to move, in which case the creature also becomes stunned until it can move again. That's actually, I think, the only time I've seen that happen with frightened. Like, if you can't run any further, you're stunned until you have a path forward.
Right.
Usual frightened rules for getting rid of it can repeat the saving throw at the end of each of its turns, ending the effect on a success. If they succeed, the effect ends and they're immune to the Divine Dread for 24 hours.
So that's definitely a nasty ability. It's kind of weird and crappy that it's by itself. That's literally the only thing this could do until it goes into a sacred statue. Yeah, but it doesn't take an action to possess the statues. So I can see it does this. It kind of fears the party. And then go into a statue and start chasing them down. Because I don't think it'll end if it disappears by possessing a statue.
No, I couldn't imagine it would either. One thing that's important just to think of for the flavor of this creature, this encounter even, is that its goal doesn't seem to be to kill intruders. It is to drive out intruders.
Right.
So to me, if it does this Divine Dread, its goal isn't to... I mean, of course, it's probably going to go into the sacred statue because it's a lot easier to keep people frightened in there. But if it gets everyone to run away for the next 24 hours, then that's a win. Or, I mean, obviously, you'd want to keep them back longer, but it's only going to be high-level adventurers who are able to succeed a DC 15 wisdom saving throw on a regular basis and all that. So I think that's important to keep in mind. It doesn't need like a big follow-up.
Yeah, like random individuals find the tomb, go in there, they get spooked by this thing and just flee. Just run out.
And then, hooray, Goal accomplished.
Right.
But let's say that goal isn't accomplished. That's when the sacred statue does come in. So, as mentioned, this thing does not have any challenge rating, but it can kind of be assumed it's like the challenge rating 12, or like the combined entity of
Yeah.
them all together makes a challenge rating 12. I don't know. So, armor class of 19, much better. HP of 95, speed of 25, and then has strength of 19, dex of 8, con of 19, 14 intelligence, 19 wisdom, 16 charisma. Keeps that saving throw of plus 8 wisdom, loses the perception skill, I guess. And then it has the same resistances, immunities, and then I think the condition immunities change a little bit. It has the ability to become restrained. So it has charmed, exhaustion, frightened, paralyzed, petrified, and poisoned. So yeah, it gains the ability to become restrained and prone, it looks like.
That's the only
Which
difference.
makes sense because it has a body now.
Right.
Still has dark vision out to 60 feet, still knows all the same languages. And then it has, for passives, false appearance. So if the statue is motionless at the start of combat, it has advantage on its initiative roll. Moreover, if a creature hasn't observed the statue move or act, the creature must succeed on an 18 investigation check to discern that the statue isn't an object, which is a little bit interesting because that means that really would only come up if the Eidolon has already inhabited the sacred statue, because if it hasn't, then it is just an object.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the Eidolon's smart enough to go into the statue and then just play a statue until an opportune moment. I mean, intelligence of 14, they would know how to set traps and things like that.
Makes sense. So then next it has Ghostly Inhabitant. The Eidolon that enters the statue remains inside it until the statue drops to 0 HP. The Eidolon uses a bonus action to move out of the statue, or the Eidolon is turned or forced out by an effect such as Dispel Evil and Good spell. So that's where I was saying maybe Turn Undead works on this, because it says an effect such as Dispel Evil and Good. So would Turn Undead work there? Because it says that the Eidolon disappears.
I hate it when they get that vague. Like, that's no help at all. Forced out by an effect such as Dispel Evil and Good. Because that's... Turn Undead is not a hard ability to come by. Clerics and paladins. Some paladins and all clerics get it.
I think the intention is, yes, Turn Undead works, because the Eidolon is turned is not explicit, but that kind of seems...
It seems like that would just kind of trivialize this fight.
Does it? I mean, it's not like it just explodes the creature.
Well, it leaves, and then it needs to flee.
Until it succeeds on its save.
Sure, and it doesn't have that much AC or health, so it would just be taken down real quick. And also, it does say, like, it disappears. It's not there. So it's saying if you, like, cast Dispel Evil and Good on the statue, that dispels the Eidolon from it, to be able to turn Undead on the Eidolon when it has effectively disappeared. I mean, clearly it's up to DM discretion. That's literally codified in the rules. That's obviously up to DM discretion. So it's your call as a DM to see how the fight's going, and if you feel they earned it, it's by letting them just use Turn Undead.
Oh, that's horrible. That is bad. That's not good game design. It's like, oh yeah, depending on how the fight's going, then you can decide. Like, no. That's not how things should go. But I feel like my gut is saying that Turn Undead would work, and I don't think it would be the encounter ender that maybe we think it would be, just because, yes, they get turned, but also, they have advantage on the saves in the first place, and they have +8 to wisdom saving throws, which I'm pretty darn sure that's what Turn Undead goes towards.
I think you're right, yeah.
Now
it sounds like a wisdom save.
Right.
Just no.
Turn Undead, yes, must make a wisdom saving throw. So my thought is, if the the party succeeds, they use their channel divinity, turn undead works, which again, it probably won't, but if it does, then their reward is the Eidolon is cast out until it succeeds, which it probably will next time because it still has advantage and it still has +8, and then it will probably try going back into a statue. So I feel like that could be interesting because it creates that moment of, ooh, if we do this correctly, if we succeed, then maybe this fight won't be very hard, or nope, okay, it's still going to be very difficult. Kind of like banishment.
Yeah.
You got to like work around banishment. Once banishment's on the table, you can't just be like, well, we're never having a fight with a demon because all you have to do is banish it. It's like, you got to just let them have some.
Yeah, that's a good point. If I was a cleric and I used my channel of divinity to turn undead on this thing when it possessed the statue to try and scare it out of it, and it was like, nope, just doesn't work because the weird hacky rule to save some lines of text says the word disappear, I would be a little bothered.
Yeah. I know you would.
Yeah. All right, let's turn undead work.
All right, so I missed the last sentence here, so just to wrap it up, in Ghostly Inhabitant, it says, when the Eidolon leaves the statue, it appears in an unoccupied space within 5 feet of the statue. So it is clearly codified that it appears near it.
Right.
It does say that it has the inert ability. Without an Eidolon inside, the statue is an object. Okay. And then unusual nature. I'm not even going to reread that. You know what it does. For actions, this one can do damage. You use
more words to say you're not going to reread it than to just reread it.
And you used more time to point out that I did that.
Yeah, I did.
Than just letting me move on.
All right.
Welcome to the podcast, everyone. How do our episodes become 2 hours long? I don't understand. If you're enjoying, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, tell your friends about the show. I mean, come on, we're trying our best here. So for actions, it has multi-attack. Of course, this is where the damage actually comes in. It can either make 2 slam attacks or rock attacks. Makes 2 slam or rock attacks. That wording is actually important because usually if something is phrased this way, it'll be like they make 2 sword attacks and 1 dagger attack or 2 dagger attacks, something like that. This means that you can either do a slam and a rock throw or 2 slams or 2 rock throws. The slam is +8 to hit, reach of 10 feet. It's 1 target and does 6d12 plus 4 bludgeoning damage, average of 43. And then the rock is a ranged attack +8, 60 feet /240, and then does 60-10 plus 4 bludgeoning damage for an average of 37 damage.
So it hits like a truck.
Yeah.
Like, holy shit, that is a lot of damage.
That, honestly, is almost... It's almost deceptive. Just from the perspective, this is a challenge rating 12. Challenge rating 12, I'd expect a party of like level 8s to probably take on and survive.
That one-shotting people.
Yeah, that's going to one-shot a level 8 character pretty easily. I mean, right now, y'all are...
One rounded, I guess.
2 one round, yes.
Yeah, 2 hits would kill it. Kill him.
The problem is, it's also... These are some fat crits.
I was going to say, can you imagine if it crits? 12d12 bludgeoning damage? What is that shit?
That's, yeah, you have to be a little bit careful with that.
Yeah.
A lot of it careful with that. You have to be a lot of it careful with that. This thing is definitely a... I don't know if glass cannon's the right word for it. I mean, it has resistances, but 95 HP is not that much. Honestly, I'm throwing... You guys are level 5, and I threw enemies with like 200 HP at you if it's a single enemy. So...
Yeah.
Definitely not a lot. Could probably take this down in a round or 2.
Yeah, 19 AC is pretty high, though, especially with bounded accuracy. Like, I mean, you're going to miss it a lot.
It's true. That's true. So, it's an interesting... I would like to see how this fight actually goes. But my gut tells me that I would not throw this at a party under level 9. And I
Yeah.
want to make sure that this is like probably one of the first things that they do so that I can adjust afterwards. Like this may end up being a boss fight.
And then not to mention it's rock. I mean, it has a 60-foot range, 240-foot range with disadvantage for only doing slightly less damage.
Yeah. So keep in mind, though, that at level 9, usually going down isn't where things get bad.
That's true.
It's actually dying where things become a problem. And this thing doesn't strike me as bloodthirsty. So if I was playing this as a DM, I would not be, oh, I dropped you to 0. Here's another slam attack. Here's another slam attack. That doesn't seem necessary because
that's totally fair.
Its goal is like, all right, I knocked you unconscious. Drag your friend out of here. We're done here. We're finished.
Right. And it doesn't do a good job of scaring people. I guess it is thematic. That crazy damage, like low health crazy damage, is pretty thematic for this thing, where it's going to get like 2 hits and like knock someone unconscious in 1 round, and the party is going to start to question. It's like, holy shit! All right, maybe we should actually listen to it and just leave. It's clearly not going to pursue us.
Yeah, and that really brings us into how to use this creature, right? Like not just from the combat perspective. I think its stat block is fairly straightforward, and we've already discussed that a little bit. But in terms of when a party is going to interact with this, that much is pretty obvious. It's going to be in a temple, a safeguarded location of some sort. And this thing's probably going to warn the party, or can warn the party, I guess, unless you want it to be a surprise, but can very much talk with them and say, hey, you should probably leave. Like, I'm going to kill you if you don't.
That's
like,
the spooky temple voice to use too. Hey, you should probably leave.
Right.
But,
hey guys,
when you said that spooky
really swell
like,
if
I
you
would have been
just
like,
kind of.
Okay, you could spook it up a little bit if that's the kind of game you're running.
Channel your inner Olmec.
I still don't know who that is.
Is that from that old Nickelodeon show?
Mm-hmm.
The temple game show.
Oh my gosh!
The name of it.
Legends of the
I haven't thought
Temple.
about that in a while.
I think about that probably every day.
I feel like that's not the first time I've heard you say that, and that shows it did have staying power. So yes, you can channel your inner Olmec and have this be a super spooky thing. And like most parties, they're probably going to ignore it, especially if they have a goal in the temple. They're not just going to say, "Oh, we're out of here." But you can do it in 2 different ways. One, it could have just a warning, but it could also have a puzzle. And I really like when puzzles have the failure condition of now you have to deal with a fight. And I've done that a couple of times. I don't even know if games you've played, but either way, it usually turns out really well, because one of the frustrating things with puzzles, especially if they're like riddles and such, is that if the party doesn't get it, you all just kind of sit around for like an hour and go, wow, we're bad at puzzles, everybody. Or as the DM, you're like, wow, I'm bad at making puzzles. And now I feel like we've just, totally ground to a halt. But these seem like places where there would be ways to enter and get entry. So either you know the answer to the riddle, your party researched it beforehand, or, I mean, they could go in, they talk to this thing, it goes, hey guys, could you please leave? And they go, no. And he goes, all right, well, do you have the password? And they go, no. And he goes, all right, well, I'm going to have to beat the crap out of you. And then somebody goes down first round because this thing slams hard. The party goes, oh, okay, all right, we'll go get the password. We'll go figure it out. We're going to do some research. And that becomes an entire quest hook on its own, is how do we get past the sacred statue?
Okay, I like that. And especially you could kind of add to the fear of it, of having more than one sacred statue. Still just one Eidolon.
Yeah.
But more than one sacred statue, so they know, like, even if they do manage to like keep this thing at bay and kill it and burn it down, it's just going to pop over to another one and have to fight it again. And so then you could kind of have branching quest idea where either you could go find the password or the answer to this really hard riddle, or you find a way to stop it from transferring statues. You could somehow trap it in this one. Magic Circle spell would probably do that. So like there's like
Yeah.
kind of a creative built-in solution.
Yeah, or even,
Things like
again, doing research on what it is and knowing dispel evil and good will at least get it out of the statue.
Right.
And then it does become that game of trying to do damage to the Eidolon before it recharges and goes into another statue.
Right.
So I think this is, it's extremely open-ended in how it can be handled, and I absolutely love that.
Yeah. And if you want to give a little more to it than just like a certain spell or something like that, it's just like you could create something. You could make a MacGuffin for this fight they have to go get, and then like Ghostbusters it. And when it pops out, they get like a ghost prison where they could hold it up and activate it for an action, and it could fails to save, suck it into the prison, and then you're good to go.
Yeah, like you were saying with the multiples, you can, in a way, make this a puzzle fight. Make it in a situation where you really just cannot beat this thing. Because it can bail on its even slightly damaged statue as soon as it's ready to go. And
Right.
if you're in like a room with like 40 of these, your party's going to be like, this is not going great. And they have to
Right.
they have to do the puzzle thing. And I think to that end, there is probably a pretty good argument for toning this guy down a lot and making it kind of so this is a fight where it's trying to pop him out and beat him up and not murdering your party in 2 rounds.
That's very fair. Yeah, if you want it to be kind of figuring out that you need to, break the statue, see that there's this miasma floating in the air, and that's what you actually are targeting, and you have a round to do damage to it before it pops into another sacred statue, and you have to repeat the process. That could be a fun fight. Literally just have the damage on all of these, and it will be a more reasonable fight as well. I might even lower the AC. I mean, make the sacred statues more just weaker in general. You can really tailor it to the type of fight that you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, I mean, it is really easy, though, for the Eidolon to transfer. It's just a bonus action for them to leave the statue, which they have no other uses for. And then it's simply entering the space of another statue. That's it. It's not an action or anything like that to possess one.
Yeah, and then I guess you run into the potential scenario where people are holding their action until it leaves, but it's not going to leave until enough damage has been done to it. So if your party knows how to get it out, like the Dispel Evil and Good, which is a 5th level spell. Okay, I forgot how high level that was.
Yeah,
maybe they need a MacGuffin.
9th. Yeah.
Right, I'm thinking of having to do that multiple times though.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And that's probably not going to happen.
Yeah. I like killing the sacred statue inside a magic circle, trapping the Eidolon in there. I don't have the
like
magic
that there's
circle spell up,
options.
but yeah, I'm pretty sure that would work. I don't think there's anything about the Eidolon that would allow it to get past a magic circle.
Yeah, that checks out. But yeah, the fact that this is something that all you need to do is, and I say like this is simple, but it's the hardest thing for me. All you need to do is come up with a riddle, and from there, this becomes how your players want to handle this encounter. And the entire time, this thing is going to not be going for the kill, so you don't really have to worry so much about a TPK, but it's going to be sitting there and, makes it slam attack, throws a rock at somebody, knocks him down, and it goes, leave, please.
There's more where that came from. I mean, these are like what the biggest devotees to gods. They're probably just a bunch of like religious, like nerdy scholars.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. Theology majors.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's the reward. They get to stay in the temple for all eternity reading their books.
Right.
And
Ilmatar
beating up
says
people
that
who
you're
try to
not
steal
supposed
stuff.
to be here. Wait, I'm sorry. Well, what was that? That seemed like actually a good thing to add.
What? And beating people up that are trying to steal stuff?
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying that it could
something
sit
about
there and
books.
read stuff.
I mean, it could. The Eidolon, it doesn't say what the Eidolon does all day. It says its only purpose is to guard them. It's like probably pretty chill, most of these temples. Like, if an adventure is there, it's probably not a high traffic tourist area.
See, there's another way for the party to potentially try and get past this creature, though, is appeal to the god that it's protecting the temple of.
There you go.
If you come in and you know that this is for the god of, I don't know, love, and you find a way to prove love, boom, it's like, oh, you guys are cool, you can come on in. That's, you've proven yourselves as devout worshipers, or whatever you want to do there. Maybe it asks for a new piece of knowledge because it's been trapped and bound to this for hundreds and hundreds of years, and it knows that god is still active, and it's like, what has been going on for the last 200 years? I've read all of the books in here. I know everything that I can know, but I want to learn more. So I think there's so many ways to handle this.
Totally. And also, you could just use it for cool world building. Even if they'll never actually come up in combat, just if you want to add kind of like the magical, like high magic element to it, or really show how involved the gods are in your world, just in temples, like big city temples that are heavily trafficked and occupied and used all the time, has Eidolons circling around, and these temples are adorned with these sacred statues all over, and they're just there almost as bouncers.
Yeah,
People get out of
systems.
hand. Yeah, if people are clearly, security systems trying to steal from the temples. If the town gets sieged and someone tries to sack the temple, these things spring into action.
Oh, that's horrifying. I love that. So the town's under attack, and you just see all of the churches and temples just have their sacred statues just rise out of the ground and put the smack down on whatever has come.
And so, it doesn't need to just have the religious text to it. I mean, I don't think it would be that far-fetched to think like an evil wizard found a way to bound one of these to the service to protect their tower or stuff like that. Have your big bad evil guy control a couple of these things.
No, they use golems. That's the rule.
I mean,
you need a book
officially.
And wizards love books.
You need a book for a golem?
Ooh. Yeah, the book of golem.
Okay.
Yeah, that is a magic item. It teaches you how to make the golems.
I think players have 2 years of downtime.
I think it's up to you though. You're right. I think a wizard having a golem would be a little bit more usual thematic, but what if it was a wizard who was maybe in contention with the gods, or maybe trying to steal information from the gods? That definitely seems fitting for them to find a way to bind a Eidolon. To a sacred statue as almost a show of power. Like, I can do the same thing that you can do. So it's D&D. It's open-ended.
And you know what else would be a show of power?
Using the code MM10 to get 10% off your dice order on Metallic Dice Games.
You got
it. The setup. Dunked. Yeah,
show those dice makers who's boss.
Yeah,
no, actually, they're like really good to us and a good to affiliate. That sounded too mean. Don't show them who's boss. Just show us who's. No, you're not showing anyone who's boss. That's not a show of power. Just save some money on cool dice.
I would love to show you some of these metallic dice that I don't have in my hands, but maybe if Ellie's feeling crazy, put a little dice right here.
At this point, it's just going to be a full screen picture.
Okay.
Of the logo and the code. And
I'm juggling them. Those dice. So you can check out Metallic Dice Games to get 10% off your order using the code MM10. And they have not only metallic dice, they have resin dice, they have liquid core dice that are absolutely beautiful. They have gemstone dice that I really need to stop buying. They're so pretty.
Yeah, they're so nice.
And dice accessories, other things like that. So please check out Metallic Dice Games. And if you've enjoyed this conversation, which I hope you have if you're still here, then you can leave us a comment. Let us know how you'd use a sacred statue or Eidolon or the mixture of them. And if you want to support the show, then you can head on over to monstersandmulticlass.com/support, and you can join our Patreon as well, where we have campaign diaries, early episode releases, and occasionally other things, mostly just things related to campaign prep, like, hey, I made this map, use this map, it looks pretty cool. Thank you to our existing patrons: Ed G, Muddawait, Brian H, Craig A, Isaac M, Jeff W, Star Shinobi, Vincent M, Bob F, Joe P, Rick D, Sensible D20, Tyler S, Gray, Barons, Adam A, Rob K, and Gray, the other Gray. And make sure to subscribe, ring the bell, and again, just tell people that you enjoy our show, not just us. You know, we're tired of it. We're tired of the praise. We want you to tell other people.
I'm not tired of the praise. I'm basically Tinkerbell, so lay it on. Applaud. Praise.
And the show. And the episode.
All right. Thanks for watching.